In the beginning, the middle and the end of today's Gospel, Jesus is tempted. A common response to this story is to wonder, how can this be? After all, Jesus is the visible likeness of the unseen God. Even more tantalising is Luke's insistence that the Spirit led Jesus into temptation in the wilderness. This seems to be at odds with the plea in the Our Father, "Lead us not into temptation." Clearly, something profound is going on in the wilderness, something that we can't allow ourselves to sidestep, particularly in these Lenten days. Jesus is tempted in the wilderness. That's where our own faith can be white-handed by these same temptations. The first temptation foresees stones turning into bread. An entrepreneur smells opportunity. A magician feigns amazement. A disciple confronts a key question: who do you think we are? Indeed, whose do we think we are? Have we fallen for the claim that each of us can be and can do anything that tickles our fantasy? When we face our truest and deepest self, our soul, often enough through illness, accident, or life, what will we see? The first temptation is triggered and fed by the hunger of the human heart. Having spent 40 days fasting in the wilderness, Jesus is described as famished. Like us, he'd eat anything, no matter how out of date or hard to swallow. But there's something more to this temptation when we recall that Jesus was born in Bethlehem, a village whose name means the house of bread. From his earliest days until his last, Jesus is the bread of life to anyone who believes it is possible. Everything else is stone when compared to and contrasted with the bread of life. Can you swallow that? The temptation is to desert our deepest self, our truest identity, nurturing our deepest hungers and desires with stone rather than with he who is the bread of life. The second temptation would have us bow down before lesser gods. Real estate's key word is location, location, location. How are we tempted to locate or to position ourselves so that we always benefit? In giving us the gift of life, Jesus gives us unlimited opportunities to locate ourselves alongside those with whom Jesus associates: the unimportant, the marginalised, those doing it tough. Yet it's so easy to locate ourselves close to tin pot gods who promise much but deliver so little. The third temptation sees Jesus being encouraged to throw himself off the heights of the temple with the expectation that God will happily intervene, sending angels to protect him. How fanciful, imagining that we can call the tune God dances to. Both on the pinnacle of the temple and on the cross on Calvary's height, Jesus chose to remain rather than to come down. To love is to remain. To flee is to fear. And fear drives out love. What if we say no this Lent to stones masquerading as fulfilling bread? If we say no to settling for a God who is too small? If we say no to expecting dramatic interventions by God? Amid all these no's, we might say a big yes as we wander in the wilderness where the Spirit doggedly leads us.